All right, this is Selling Houston POV. I'm Bernard Lewis. I have
Ebony Royal.
and
Aisha Shelton.
And we have a special guest. What's your name?
Moncy Hawkins.
So Moncy is here. You are a credit repair specialist, one of the best.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very well known in our circles in Houston. So I was just telling her before the show started that she has a very recognizable brand. And most of us know her, real estate agents and alike in the real estate world. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into credit repair and what's your background?
So actually, I'm a credit consultant, a certified credit consultant, and I'm a certified financial education instructor. My background is corporate. I did 20 years in accounting and finance in big four firms. So I resigned 2015. And I was just going to be a stay-at-home mother because I just wanted to do something different. And I've always taken on different projects. I just cannot. I flipped homes, I've taught, I've done tech, all kind of things, right? So I was initially going home just to be at home. And I've always done credit on the side, though, for my family because at the age of 18, my mom passed away and I had to fix my credit to find a place to stay. That's a long story. Back then, they didn't have, the internet and all of that good stuff. So I literally had to go to the library and figure out what was credit, budgeting, savings, all of that, because I didn't come from a family that was well versed in financial literacy. They didn't know anything pretty much. They were, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Yeah. And so fast forward, I resigned. And so 2017, I ended up starting FIG, but not because I wanted to. I started volunteering on the side to help lower communities to get their credit together. And so my family was like, why don't you just start doing credit again? You just need to go all the way in. And I'm like, girl, I'm not doing that. That's what I would tell them. And so, but sure enough, I got pulled into it. And I started FIG Restoration in 2017. And I literally was like, okay, I have to have so much faith in God to deal with people. And they're just, you know how it is when you're dealing with people with financial issues, depending on what class they're in, you have to have patience. Yeah. And that's how I ended up naming it Faith in God.
So tell us about.
I love that.
I didn't even know that.
I was just about to say that. What does FIG stand for?
So FIG stands for Faith in God. FIG Restoration, because, it's all about restoring. That's what credit is. You're actually restoring your credit, your finances, your life, your mindset, all of that. So that's just been, like I said, it really was to help. I didn't think that it would go where it went. I really was not planning on having a full functioning business where I'm having to work it every day. But I guess, I know now it's my purpose. It's my ministry. And so this is what you have.
Wow.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Wow.
Faith in God.
Yes.
Restoration.
So, I'm on many of our shows, we are talking about, finances, the interest rates and purchasing homes. And there are some creative financing that's coming out. And it's something that we used to do, back in the days, but ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages. And on one of the previous shows, I talked about the ARMs aren't bad. No, they really aren't. Mm-hmm. So there are, I think, 5, 8, and 10 year or,
something like that.
Yeah, something like that, 5, 8, and 10 year ARMs. But ARMs aren't bad. What's bad is that after you close on the house and you just completely forget about your credit, you feel like I got my house, like I don't need to really worry about my credit anymore. But the reality is that you do need to be diligent with keeping your credit intact so that when you do need to refinance it into either a long-term loan or another ARM, then you won't have any issues. And I think that's part of historically part of the problem in the past. So this show is all about fixing your credit, getting it together.
That's so important.
Yeah. So tell the audience a little bit about, like, do some myth busters. What are some myth busters?
So before I do that, I do want to just kind of piggyback on the ARM.
Okay. Yes, please.
My first home, we had an adjustable rate mortgage.
Yeah.
And it was great. We had excellent credit. And then the interest rates kind of went down even more a couple of years, and we end up refinancing into a fix. But our credit was good. And so one of the things is when you said making sure that you keep up with your credit, quick fixes. You know, you have people that I can be real.
Yes.
Say whatever you want to say.
Tell the truth, Moncy. So it's so important because sometimes I have people come, and we all know about trade lines, season trade lines at piggybacking, where people are paying and leasing for these trade lines. And I don't do that. I don't partake in that because I'm all about building your credit and your finances in your own name, doing it a safe way, because those types of things will come back to haunt you.
Say legal, right?
And so let's just say if you're leasing a season trade line and you qualify for your home, and then you're no longer leasing that, and that trade line comes off of your credit, and now you have a score drop. And then let's say you're in the market as we are in today, you are in a world of trouble.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because you didn't do your due diligence and fix your credit the right way in your own name, paying down your own credit cards, rebuilding in your own name. So that's so important in our community. And I'll just say this, our community, we love quick fixes because we like to show well. We like to show well, but we don't like to take the time to do things the correct way when we should be thinking about longevity.
Yeah.
That's right.
And what our financial future will look like, because what you do with your credit today is going to dictate your future lifestyle.
That's correct.
So it's really important. Another myth that I see is, people will think all the time. So one of the on my consultation form, I'll ask, well, what is your goal? Do you plan to buy a house or whatever? Most of them will say, I plan to buy a house in 90 days. That's their favorite one. 90 days.
I'd love to hear. That's not too
90
bad.
days. And so I'm looking at the credit report, and we have 400s, 500s, and I just tell them, it's not realistic. And so they'll tell some of them, if their mindset is not right, they'll say, well, such and such credit restoration told me that they can get my score up in this amount of days, and everything can be deleted, and they can do a credit sweep.
What the
Tell
heck
us
is
about
a credit
that.
Yeah,
sweep?
so credit sweeps. I'm telling all the secrets today.
Tell
That
it,
doesn't bother me
tell
because my job is to protect the people. I told y'all, FIG
that's
restoration
right.
is my
Yeah.
No
ministry,
matter
right?
what she
So
say,
we're
you
not
ain't gonna
playing
do it anyway.
games.
It is. It is.
So the credit sweep is where you use fraudulent. And the reason I know this is because I make sure I know about every single thing. I know how to do every single thing that's out there for my own good, though. And sometimes I do have to help people reverse some of this stuff that they get into. So a credit sweep is pretty much where they're going in and filing, a fraudulent credit police report, and then you're going in and said, hey, I have fraud. They put a fraud alert. I have fraud on my credit report. And then you go through, credit sweeps in that fashion. There's other ways to do it, but I don't want to give people bright ideas
Don't
and
do
they
it.
go out there and do that. But, and so I'm like, well, if that's what you want to do, please go to the other person.
Yeah.
I just can't do that for you
That's
because
the
I'm not
same
going to jail.
person that says, let me fix your credit, and then they have the pretty Mercedes there.
Yeah.
That's not what you should be
That's the same
fixing your
person-
credit
that's the
for.
same
And if you
that's in
notice, I
jail
don't
right now.
post material
don't.
things.
You don't.
You'll never know what car I drive, where I live.
Yeah.
I don't do that. Blink. You won't see
But
any of
that's
that.
not the point of fixing credit.
Well, and the SEC is cracking down on people who have those
Yes, I
business
was
models as
just
well.
about to
And one
say
of the
that.
things that I've always admired about Moncy and the business that she does is that she's very clear. Like, if that's what you're looking for, then FIG is not the place for you.
Yes.
And it's a really easy process to weed out, what it is that you're looking for. And do you want to do something that's legal and legit and has long-term benefits? Then I feel like FIG Restoration is the place for you.
Right.
If you're looking for that quick fix to get in because somebody, cousin, uncle, niece, daughter, mom told you about how you can, clean your credit with 90 days, then first of all, it's not quite the right client for myself, but it's also not quite the right client for Monty as well. And so we've aligned in that way for sure.
A police report, a fraudulent police report saying somebody did fraud.
And like she said, these governing authorities, the FTC, the CFPB, all of these organizations, they really are coming down on credit. You've probably seen so many have gotten sued in the past several years.
Sure. Yeah.
And just this last year, it hit home, you know, and so we have to be careful.
We have just begun to see that because, you know, with those PPP loans and EIDL loans.
So they are going to crack down on those folks.
They already have started. They've already sued, credit, restoration companies. And it's really, I'm not going to jail for nobody. I don't think I would do well in jail.
Right.
I'm sorry, but I just don't know about that. You know, and I like to eat. And I don't like ramen noodle spreads and those things.
And not only that, you have plenty enough business from, people that are trying to do the right thing. So guess what? I don't need your one little dollar.
No.
Bye.
And I feel like if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. And while you may get away with it in the short term, what are the long-term ramifications? Because you might have a good life 5 years from now, and boom, there's some kind of flag that says you're in trouble, right? So your life may be in a very good space because you did some things back in the day to get to where you needed to get to, and then you're in a good space.
Great point.
I mean, I've not seen it personally. I've seen stories of it, of like people who have started a whole life. They got a wife and they have children and families, and then the husband gets caught for something that he did 8 years ago. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, if you're not doing the right thing to get where you want to go, there are realtors for that. There are credit restoration companies for that. I don't think on this stage here they exist.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I was like, yes, I will definitely come do this, because I know that you all operate with integrity.
Absolutely.
I deal with a lot of realtors. I meet a lot of them, lenders as well. And everyone does not operate with integrity. They don't. They do not. And I know y'all probably know because you all are in the industry every day, but sometimes I'm even shocked. Like, what did you just ask me to do? Like, okay, you must have not heard.
Wow. And I'm so green. I can't even think that way. I can't think that way. I can't think like a criminal.
But you know what I'm also grateful for? Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? And so if you don't know that this 90-day credit sweep is like illegal, or the long-term ramifications of it, Moncy is very much, and I'm saying this because we've had this conversation before with clients that we have, and she was like, okay, wait, now this is what they asking, this is what the ramifications are, and it's edification, right? And in our community, we get a lot of information like that. You know, oh yeah, you can get your credit sweep and then you can go buy a house because it don't show up on your credit and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, but something don't sound right about that.
They don't.
It works though.
Listen to that.
And it works.
Yeah, it works short term.
I've seen people get into houses using these kinds of products and these tactics.
You signed something saying you didn't commit fraud to do this.
And it comes back because they're going to sell it. They're going to take it off for a minute, but it's going to come back. But the other thing too is, just think about it. Just think of all of the different accounts that you have on your credit report. And a lot of times people end up having bad credit because they've defaulted on their contracts for these creditors. So you may have had a credit card and you defaulted, you became late, then it became a charge off, and now you're at this state. So if you're going to say this is fraud, this is not mine, well, who's been paying this credit card? A lot of times we're paying them directly from our accounts. Who's been paying this credit card for the past year or 2 years, however long you had it? Who was paying this card note? They're going to track your bank accounts to see the money is coming back.
Same address.
Like we have to think, like sometimes I think we just have our heads in the cloud because we just want
and
that
want
we
it
don't
fast.
think, like she said, about
That's
the
greed.
ramifications.
Yeah, that's greed, and that you're not going to get anywhere.
No, you're not. But in jail,
It's a short-term thing.
Oh, this is so juicy. I didn't realize how
You're
juicy
going
this
to jail. Did you hear Moncy? She said you're going to jail. If you out there sweeping, you're going to jail. And you're going to be pushing the broom over there.
Yes.
Dear sir or ma'am.
It is definitely fraud, and you should shy away from it.
Oh my
so
goodness.
that was fun. But for those that are, legitimately trying to find themselves in a better place so that they can purchase a home, what would you tell those people? What should they start doing now? What can they do?
Okay. Be realistic about your goals, your credit goals. You know, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And then from there, take a really good assessment of your financial situation. Look at your credit. You know, are you budgeting? That's a big thing. A lot of us have credit issues because we won't budget. We won't cut back on our spending. So cut back on your spending. And then credit cards. You know, we all have credit cards. Make sure you're paying those credit card balances down. That's 30% of your credit score. So if you're carrying higher balances, of course your scores are going to drop.
So what's the magic number? What percentage should you
Okay. So if you go online, it's going to tell you 30%. That's a safe place, but you have to realize the closer that your balances are to the credit limit, the lower your scores are going to drop. So online, they'll tell you 30%. My clients, I have them do 1 to 3% balances of the credit card limit, because it's not just a credit situation. We want to make sure that you're in a good place from a debt perspective, because as you know, the lenders are going to look at all of that. They're going to look at your credit score. They're going to look at your credit profile, the strength of your credit profile, and they're going to look at your debt to income ratio, right? So I have my clients do 1 to 3%. And sometimes when I'm talking to them and they first hear those percentages, they're like, oh, I can't do that. You know, that's just too low. And I'm like, it's really not. You just don't want to cut back on your spending. And before you know it, they're at that 1 to 3% and they're doing good. You know, so that's one of the things. Also, just making sure that if you have any, you know, collections, deal with those, whether that's going through credit repair or whether you're negotiating some of those for deletions. You know, if you're going to deal with the collection, make sure you negotiate a deletion for it, because if you pay those collections and they don't delete it, your scores will drop.
Right.
Okay.
So that's important, because a collection is not going to represent well on your credit report as long as it exists. So going back to myths, you'll see, especially on social media, where they're saying you don't have to worry about collections. There's these laws that says you don't have to worry about a collection. You do have to worry about collections.
It's your bill.
It's your bill.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is, if you, depending on what type of collection, especially with credit card debt. So in Texas, the statute of limitations is 4 years of when you can be sued on that debt. And so if you have collections in their credit cards, and depending on what that amount is, you can be sued for that debt if you don't pay it. So once you see that you owe that, go ahead on and start making payment arrangements, because I'm telling you, it's going to cost you more to get out of that lawsuit or that lien than it will cost you on the front end to start making some payment arrangements. And I'm telling you this because I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, can we give a little bit advice? Because I think, you know, I don't know. I can speak to our culture. Okay. I can't speak for anyone else's, but I think too, sometimes when we hear about credit cards, it's just like unlimited money, right? It's not something to live off of. It's not something to just charge, because it's going to come back. You have to pay it eventually, right?
Yes,
so if maybe it's not a good idea if you don't have a lot of money coming in to have a credit card. What would you tell an 18-year-old, right? An 18-year-old, right? Just looking to grow up, right? What would you tell them about a credit card? What's your advice? So
credit cards are just a tool. My daughter was 18 when she got her first credit card. But of course she lived in the house with me. So
right. It was
no
good.
games are being played, right? But you know, it's just, a credit card is a tool, and you only spend what you can manage.
That part.
What you can pay back. If you cannot pay it back, don't get it. So we live in America, and in America, we do have a culture where credit and cash are both necessary, right? So what I have my younger clients do, because I have a lot of clients that are in college, some that has even just graduated, and they're really trying to, you know, leverage all of this and become wealthy. That's the big thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Bruh.
And so get a credit card, but you know what? You don't get a credit card, put Netflix on one, if you have Hulu, if you have a subscription, put those cards up, leave them there, let them auto draft, and you're going to build your credit. That's how you do it. You don't have to take it out, because I'm telling you, if you have that card in your wallet and if you don't have good spending habits, you're going to swipe. Going to swipe.
Maybe suggesting a secure credit card for them to start off with?
Most of them will probably have to start off with a secure card, because you have to establish your credit. You have to establish first, and that typically begins with a secure card, because they don't trust you.
Yeah. So what about putting your child on as an authorized user.
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
okay.
If you are the parent.
If you are the parent, okay, yes.
with spending, right?
Yes.
And you know, because a lot of people don't know that because they just hear, oh, put your child on your credit card. And I actually had a client who put her child on her credit card.
And the credit card was
at the limit.
And it was a mess.
Yeah.
She was able to have them removed. But it's just, again, education. And back to our community, we don't like to be educated. We just want what we want now. But education saves us so much money in the long run. And the education helps us because life does happen. You know, I've had to rebuild my credit about 3 different times because life happened. But because I was equipped with the education and the knowledge and the tools, I knew how to dig myself out of it sooner. It's when we don't have the tools where now we can't dig ourselves out of it. And then also it starts to affect our mindset, anxiety, stress. And then when we get stressed, we start to panic. And then we start doing crazy things to get out of it. That set us back.
Yeah. I like what you said though about, you know, you got out of a bad credit situation 3 times. A lot of us feel like because we are in a bad credit situation that there's nothing else that you can do about it. And the beautiful thing about credit is what goes up can come down. Exactly. You know what I mean? What goes down can also come back up. So if you have a life event that affects your credit negatively, you can still get back there if you do the right things, have the right habits, and obviously work with the right people to equip you with the knowledge and the skills to do that.
Not the sweepers.
Exactly.
Not the sweepers.
And it doesn't happen overnight. It didn't take you, overnight to get in the situation.
But they want it fixed
so it's
overnight.
it's not going to take overnight to get out of it. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Moncy, do you also help business owners with like business credit as well? Are you versed in that, or is it just more personal?
So
credit?
I do know about business credit, and I've taught business credit, but I have a referral partner that is just a beast at business credit that I trust. They are experienced, and they just are very well at it. And so I refer out. So many people will come to me for different things. I don't know. Sometimes they think I just do everything. I don't do taxes. I just do credit. That's what I do.
Right. We just see dollar signs when we see
credit
you.
Education. But no, I really rely on my network of really experienced individuals that can help and not, that's going to help you and not, I don't want to say this word, cheat you out of money.
Yep.
Because, everyone can do things these days, and everyone has just such a high ticket value on, price on what they're doing. But individuals that I work with, they are truly vetted. They're truly experienced, and they have the clients and the experience to show, and they're not going to overcharge. Let's just put it that way. Of course, they're going to charge their worth, but they're going to make sure that you're taken care of.
Okay.
So that's important.
Great.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I'm just sad that we didn't call you sooner. Like, why haven't we reached out? Like, what is going on?
What took y'all so long?
I know, right?
We're sorry, Moncy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So,
what else do we have to share? We have so much. We have a few more minutes. Any other maybe myths or advice that you can give people? Maybe the younger population, because I feel like that's where it goes wrong. And then by the time they're 30, they're on their first kid, and it's kind of hard to find a place to live. So actually, it goes wrong at all ages. I'll just tell you that. But make sure you check your credit. Know what's in your credit report, because a lot of times we don't know, and then that hurts us. So is there an app, or is there any way to track?
What's
like
the
what
best
do
way
you
to
recommend
check
to
your
track it?
So there are so many different avenues to check your credit. Any good credit monitoring site, you want to check your credit every 30 days. At least look at it. Credit monitoring is great. So Credit Karma is one that everybody looks at. It's free. They give you 2 scores, but you will drive yourself crazy looking at Credit Karma just because it fluctuates so much for no reason at all. It's a good tool to have because it's free, and it will tell you if something new pops up on your credit. So look at it for that reason. If you have new collections, or if you maxed out your credit cards or you can see your credit card utilization, it's fine. Me, there's two that I use specifically. So from the FICO perspective, I use myfico.com, but I also use Identity IQ, which is a Vantage score. And the reason I like that one as well is because it's very detailed. It's even more detailed than myFICO when it comes to looking at the history and dates, because all of those things are important for me when I'm disputing. So my clients, we actually use both. Like when they start with me, depending on the time frame, we'll start off with Identity IQ. It's a much cheaper also from a monthly perspective. And then when we get closer to reaching our credit goals, we flip over to myFICO, because I don't want you going to the lender and you're not ready, and then you get a hard inquiry and all of that kind of stuff when you start. So myFICO and Identity IQ is what I prefer.
Yeah, I'm a myFICO fan.
Yeah,
for
you're
sure.
the one told me about myFICO.
Yeah, I did a whole video
I use
on
myFICO personally.
I use Identity IQ per your recommendation, but also a lot of banks and credit cards have, a function nowadays that give you access to your credit score as well.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's one thing to know like the full scope and picture, especially when you're making big purchases, I feel like, but for your day-to-day monitoring, would you agree that those are sufficient? They pop up, when things pop up on your credit report, that they populate, it tells you what your credit utilization is, and it's also a perk of the financial institution that you're with.
I use all of them. I mean, every day I'm checking. I'm like, when I wake up in the morning, I'm checking bank account, I'm checking credit, and I use every single credit card scores. And the thing is, there are over like 21, actually there's more now, more than 21 FICO scores. FICO scores are industry specific. So the score that you may see for the mortgage industry, which is classic 2, 4, and 5 scores, that's the versions. Auto lending is going to use something else.
Yeah.
Bank credit cards is going to use something else. So you will never have the same credit score across the board. And then each day you will never probably have the same credit score, because your credit score is just really a snapshot of that moment in time. So that's why if you look at your credit report today, it's just going to snap where those numbers are. And then tomorrow or the next day, as things begin to change, it's going to give you a different score. So it's a lot to do with, because sometimes the clients will say, hey, well, I saw my score as a 680 on here, and then I went to go get something that was a 640 or 630.
Right.
So you just have to know which industry. And like I said, myFICO is good for that. It's going to get you the closest. It's not always on the mark, but it's going to be the closest out of all of them. But you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's still not bad. I tell people, if you can't pay $39 a month,
You can't get a house.
you don't need to be getting a house. Period.
And I'm not sure how to help you.
Says the realtor.
Yes.
No.
So
That's good.
how can people get in touch with you? I know you recently switched to a referral-based business. Could someone call you directly, or do they need to work with some of your preferred lenders?
So pretty much I prefer that you come through one of my lending institutions, the real estate industry, my educational resources. But I had to go ahead on and institute this. We now have a screening process for those that don't have a referral. It's just because the individuals that I work with, your mindset has to be right. And so, yes, you can get in, but you do have to go through a screening process. And that screening process, we're just saying, are you really serious? Are you really willing to work this? Are you willing to do a budget? And just all of those things. And if they answer all of the questions correctly, then we can move you forward. But I'm just in a season where I'm able to work with individuals who really are trying to go to the next level, or they are at the next level and they cannot stop what they're doing because they are having financial issues. So we just need to make sure everybody's on the same page. My patients are very short.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I love that.
That's good, though. We heard on the last episode, if y'all go back to the last episode, mindset was a really big deal. And what our last guest said, you know what I mean? And so y'all need to be investing in your mindset, because you have some people that won't even touch you.
I don't
if
play
your
games.
mindset isn't right. So if you're looking for a good investment,
start with your mindset.
Start with your mindset.
And don't waste people's time. Be mindful of people's time.
Yeah.
Like,
Moncy not gonna let you.
coaching,
well, after that screening, you when she figure it out, then she gonna say, maybe we should try again in 6 months or so.
Yeah.
But
And that's why even, consultations, you can't sign up for program in my company without going through a consultation first.
Yeah.
It's so important because, people will, we just have to make sure we protect our businesses,
Absolutely.
Right. No, same.
And protect your energy.
And your energy.
And your
I
energy.
mean,
Do you have a Instagram? Is there a way they can follow you to see your cool posts?
yeah.
How is that?
So I am Fig Restoration on all social media.
Okay.
My website is figrestoration.com.
Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn mostly though, and I'm at Moncy Hawkins because my niche is first generation entrepreneurs and high salary professionals. So that's who I typically work with. But of course, I will help anyone who's ready.
Come on,
Who has the right mindset?
Let's go.
We'll help you figure it out.
You're right. Well, this has been a great show.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was
having me.
not
Thank
expecting this. Well, we got some good game here. Some
Don't
good
forget
free game.
to like, subscribe, and share.